I went through a lot when I was a kid. I went to a very violent school. I had a very, very tough time in my university years, not knowing who I was, not knowing what I wanted, and wondering how the hell do I make any sense of who am I and where am I trying to go? And it was very painful. And it's public information that I lost myself in drugs, I lost myself in alcohol, and made a lot of mistakes. And I would like to shortcut young people's paths and for them not to have to go through what I went through, but also to be able to do what they want to do far quicker. I read a beautiful quote this evening, which I sent you, by the way, from Tony Robbins, who is one of the world's, is the world's most well-known motivational speaker, whose forums attract 12 to 15,000 people. Yeah. He did a webinar, a 3-day webinar about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, that had 22,000 people from around the world who attended. And what was he saying? He was saying that he met a mentor, Jim Rohn, who you've heard me speak a lot. Yes, Jim Rohn, for everybody out there who's interested in personal growth, Jim Rohn is one of the greatest one-line public speaker, insightful human beings you can ever get across. Do yourself a favour and buy Jim Rohn books. Everything you ever wanted to know about success is written by Jim Rohn. And he mentored Tony Robbins, and Tony Robbins wrote in that quote, Tony Robbins was a janitor going nowhere with his life. Very fat, a loser. And he found his way to a Jim Rohn seminar, and he said that was it. And I took control of my life. I changed my life because your past does not create your future. And he said that Jim Rohn cut 10 to 20 years off his growth. And I could think of no finer thing than to cut 10, 20 years off somebody's growth. And having spent 40 years accumulating tools, my job and my honour and my privilege is to mentor somebody incredibly bright and driven, such as you, Ciku. Ciku is an incredibly bright and driven woman, and I'm very, very proud to and honoured and privileged to be part of you. And anyone else that wants to step up, play first grade and get into it.
It is very, very interesting. You mentioned that when it is public, that you had gotten yourself into drugs.
Yeah.
And it is amazing how you got out from it, and there you were at the age of, I think, 35, sitting in international boardrooms, traveling in different countries. At what point in your life did you decide, well, this is enough, I've just had enough of wasting my life, now it's time for me to turn around my life and start doing what I really want to do and running after my purpose?
I managed to get a university degree, even though I was stoned off my head all the time. I actually managed to pass. But then after university, I was young. I finished my degree at 21 and things went really downhill. And to all the youth out there who will hear this, I wanted fast money. I wanted it now. And I had very limited self-esteem. And that meant that I really wanted to cover my low self-esteem up by getting cash, cars and holidays really quickly. And those shortcuts led me to drugs. Drug dealing was actually my quick route to, and it's a very ugly and dangerous thing to get involved in. There's nothing glamorous about it. It's not like the TV at all. I've had guns pointed at me. I've been in very dangerous situations, and I've been very, very close on 2 occasions to going to prison. I've been kidnapped, I've been tortured, all that stuff goes on in the drug scene. And there's nothing TV glamorous about it. It's full of decrepit people and very dangerous situations. And at 25, a landmark really hit me. My life was in a mess. I had a drug habit. I was extremely sick from drug use. And I actually got sick, incredibly sick, because of drug use. And in a way that saved my life. So what seemed like a bad thing at the time turned out to be the very best thing. because I had to stop. I mean, it was really like stop drugs now or die. And I did. And in the 6 months that I recuperated, I realised, look, this can't go on. This is not the life I want. And as you said, 9.5 years later, I was at an international boardroom.
So at that point when you decided this is enough and you started working your way towards your purpose, and you were in international boardrooms, you were traveling, you're doing mentorship, you're just doing incredible things. What kind of mindset did you adopt?
Oh, great! Yeah, that's the unbounded question, isn't it? That's the one. What made me change quickly? I was incredibly eager to grow, and I would really want everybody to hear this. You've got to want it. You've got to be prepared to be teachable. Number one, you've got to get around people who are way smarter than you. You've got to get around mentors. And you've got to be teachable and let them mentor you. Now, what that means is every mentor is a human being, so every mentor has human faults and all the rest of it. And some of my early teachers, as I've shared with you, Ciku, were very, very tough on me. And I wouldn't have it any other way. A diamond takes a little bit of hammering to get the rough edges off it to emerge a diamond. So I would say, get around people who love you enough to actually tell you the truth about yourself. Secondly, really be thirsty for knowledge, read massive amounts of books. I switched on to motivational tapes very early and crammed them into my head, and work like the devil. I mean, just go. Whatever's put in front of you, basically follow the path your mentor's given you. Massively expand your tools, your knowledge, read books, listen to tapes, take control of your life, and surround yourself with people who believe in you and inspire you, which also the flip side of that means, and get away from people who are wasting time, putting you down. It's your choice how you spend a day. So
that is really amazing. Read, gather massive knowledge.
Yeah.
And there is this quote that
you need tools.
Yeah. And there's this quote that you really, I've heard you saying a lot of time, it's like your big quote, that knowledge is not power, action is power.
Yeah, absolutely.
So after gathering the knowledge and being taught by your mentors and teachers, what actions, what did you do to be able to gain all these things that you've been able to do?
Yeah, another great question. That's a very, very common old school statement that you even still hear people saying, oh, you know, knowledge is power, information is power. No, it's not. That's not the thing. There's a step missing. Lots of people have lots of information, but they don't do anything with it. There are lots of people who have fabulous ideas, but they don't implement them.
Yes.
So where is their information power or their knowledge power? You can rest assured, if you've got a great business idea, there's 7.5 billion people in the world, probably 700,000 people have had the same idea. Guess what? 1 or 2 of them are going to implement the idea and probably become billionaires. And you know, you think Bezos is the only guy that thought of Amazon. You think Elon Musk is the only one that thought of electric cars. You think Steve Jobs is the only one who ever wanted to build a computer, or Bill Gates. I mean, that's nothing new. Jack Ma, online trading. What, he's the only guy that thought of that? There are thousands of people who thought of it. But there are a lot less people that actually do the stuff and do the actions and stick with it. It's what you do consistently and persistently. Success is not overnight. Success is what you persist. The number one cause of success is persistence. It's what you do persistently and consistently that gets you across the line. That's where the power is. The action. Make a decision and get on with it.
I love the statement, success is not overnight, you know, but most people tend to think, some people have the notion there's an overnight success. So could you explain to people what your overnight success was?
My overnight success? Mine? Oh, okay. You actually asked me what I did. Fine. I was 26. I was given a set of motivational tapes. My overnight success involved listening to them obsessively, over and over and over again, making new distinctions, learning. My overnight success was relentless reading. My first serious straight job, serious one, was in sales. I found out there was a global sales guru called Tom Hopkins. Anyone who's in sales needs to read Tom Hopkins. Complete and utter master. His book, Master the Art of Selling, absolute classic. What did I do, Ciku? Man, I crammed that book, then crammed it again, then crammed it again, and crammed it again. And just when I thought I knew everything about it, I crammed it again and crammed it again. And you know, it was simple. While the other guys went to have a beer, I went to read a book. And I would read these sales lines, and I was dreadful. And I'd go into work the next day selling, and I'd parrot off the lines that I'd read in the book. And I was awful. And frequently I'd sound like a guy reading a book. So, did you prefer the red color or the green? I mean, it was like really staccato, like, oh gosh, I was bad. But with persistence of applying the information, and that's where I was different to the other guys. I applied it and failed over and over again. And pretty soon you start to get a success, and then you get 2 successes, and then you get 3. And before you know it, you're the top salesperson. And before you know it, you've been in the workforce for 2 years, and the boss is saying, hey, we need someone to fly up to Japan to represent the company. And you're the golden boy, of course, by now, or golden woman, who's got the biggest sales. And guess what? You get the tap on the shoulder. And I'm on a flight to Japan within 2 years of entering the workforce. And I'm meeting the directors of one of the world's largest musical instruments and electronic instruments producers in the world. And I'm sitting there with the managing directors and the big guys in Japan. And they're asking me what I think about product development. It's like, is this my life? Is this my life really? And the answer is, sure is. And you can get there. You sure can.
Your story is really capturing and really interesting. And I'm sure you didn't start with anything like money, or you didn't start with coming from a rich family and have had all the resources you need. And nowadays, many people want to use the excuse of, oh, I don't have the resources, I don't have money, this is not the right time. What advice would you give to them?
Oh, look, Ciku, you kind of already know my answer. The biggest lie that people tell themselves is by focusing on, oh, I don't have, and then they come out with a list. And it's just an excuse. And the realities are, again, if you open a book, and I did this in the age before there was a phone or a Google. So seriously, right here, we have a computer, which is actually what a phone is.
Yeah.
And the mathematics for a computer was invented by a woman, by the way, which in case you were wondering. And this thing has a thing called Google in it. Ciku, do you realise that the entire knowledge of the human race is sitting in your phone? And what are we frigging doing with it? We're flicking through Facebook going, oh, look at that, tripped over in the footpath, or that chick's hot, or that guy's hot.
Yeah.
And we use the greatest technological achievement that has given us access to such incredible amounts of information, and we use it to waste time. Wow. If you were an alien looking down, saying, these guys have got access to the sum total of human knowledge, and what do? They spend it looking at it. You'd be shocked, right? So the true answer to your question is that it's all about what you focus on. And if you focus on what you don't have, that will grow bigger. If you focus on what you do have, that will grow bigger. So if you actually Google the world's 1,500 to, I think it's about 1,800 now, billionaires, for example, you'll find that most of them dropped out of campus, and most of them started with absolutely nothing. In Kenya, a guy that started Equity Bank started with 5,000 bob. Money is not the reason you do things. Money is not the reason you don't do things. If you want to be a radio announcer, write scripts and practice being an announcer 6 hours a day. You don't need money to do that. You want to be a dancer, start dancing 6 hours a day. That's the price tag of getting good at it. You don't need money to do that. But you want to be a something or other. Is it going to be 100 books or 100 beers? You want to start a business? Start a business. Start with what you have. Start where you are. It's probably going to be a pretty crappy business until you've got the money to fund it. It doesn't matter. But the point is, you're learning, and you're actually doing it. And that is the entrepreneur life. Get out of your head, get out of bed, and get into it. And that's it. Throw the fear to the side and just start. You're either going to find a way, Ciku, or you're going to find an excuse. It's just that. That's the truth. That's the honest truth.
You have a great, massive, and a lot amount of knowledge. Really smart. You really authentic, and you have so much knowledge. And recently, I happened to talk to a client who asked me, do you have any books that Michael Flynn has written? I'd really like to buy one. And I'm going to throw you into this right now. When are you going to produce your first book, Michael? I know you've started writing it, but we are waiting for it.
Okay, well, you really put me on the spot here, aren't you? Yeah, and that's good. I'm glad that you've done that. In fact, I've dragged it a little bit because people have been asking me for 10 years, where are your books? So I'm happy to say that there's 250 pages already written of a book called Into Africa, which is a beautiful story of everything that Africa has done for me. I think the dialogue between Africa and the West is very broken. And it's the story of my own experiences in the beautiful culture of mainly Kenya, how much I've learned and how we could have a far more realistic conversation and dialogue and relationship between the West and Kenya. So that will be out. I've promised me. In fact, my goal is that we will have that done by June next year, and we will, because trust me, we're going to deliver. And there's another book called Unleash Your Personal Power, and there's 150 pages of that written now, and that, of course, is the format of the UPP program that we're currently running here in Mombasa, which you're a part of. And that's just really about the tools. That's just really about how do I, as a young person, and where the difficulty frequently starts is the 25 to 30 year mark, when people suddenly realize things are not turning out the way they thought they would. When the fantasy of happily ever after and I'll get a job and I'll be making money and it's all going to, and everything's going to happen for me. Frequently between 25 and 35, we realize, whoa, I have not been well prepared for this. And there's a big story about, are we preparing youth, young people, for what's real about success? And UPP is about really giving people the tools and showing them who they are and giving them the path to clarity, to their own purpose and their own power to carry that out. Yeah, absolutely. Into
Africa is a really interesting topic for a book. And it's talking about your interests, the culture, how you've interacted with the Kenyan culture and different countries. I know you've interacted with people from Uganda, people from Tanzania, as well as other countries in
Zimbabwe, Sudan, South Sudan.
Yes.
Yep, correct.
Yeah. And you have also,
Africa.
Oh, wonderful. That is really great. Wow. So, and also in Little Sports Organization, you've worked with Africans, you've worked with Kenyans as well. Yeah. So, in your own opinion, what do you think about the work ethic in young youth in Africa?
I think that coming up with one word or one sentence is pretty tough. I think Kenyans are really great entrepreneurs and great go-getters. I think that you have learned to be the most incredible hustlers. And I think, and I say that in a very positive way. And I don't think that you get enough and give yourselves enough credit for that. You're incredibly industrious people. Compared to Western people, you're incredibly industrious. Gosh, if you want to see real creativity, business creativity, take a walk in a slum. There's a solution to absolutely every of life's problems in a slum. People are incredibly resourceful and powerful and entrepreneurial in Kenya. I mean, show me someone who hasn't got a side hustle. I mean, far out, fabulous entrepreneurial culture, which is really commendable. So Hats off to all Kenyans, all Kenyans. Then I would say, do we have a business culture which is really open to hearing youth voices and really open to giving massive opportunity to youth? And I've got to tell you, I think we're pretty patriarchal. I think we're still stuck in the past in many respects in our business life. And I would love to see youth be far more empowered and take a much more leading role in Kenya's future. And I think that happens with a fixation on older people being in control, in government roles, in business roles. And I think that the difference between the West and Kenya is that in the West, youth are where it's at. Zuckerberg, Jobs, I mean, we can go on and on and on. We're all very young when they start, and they get the kudos. People will listen to you. If you're 20 years old in the West and you're a brainy guy and you've got something to say, people will really listen. And I think that's a lot harder for youth in Kenya to be heard and listened to. So I think that's something we want to work on, which is part of what UPP and my programs are about, empowering yourself to be the very best you can be, and gaining the tools to make connections, the tools to handle money and look after money, the tools to make relationships with people, business relationships, and the tools to gain clarity about what you really want, who you really are, what you really want, and how to go forward with your life.
That is really interesting, and I know it is honest feedback, because you've stayed in Kenya for 14 years, and you are part of it, and you're a Kenyan now. You even speak very fluent Kiswahili, I must say. It is just wonderful. So you're part of Kenya, you're part of the Kenyan culture, so you feel all these things, and you know about all these things.
Sure.
And let us go back a bit to when you decided to change your life, that it was your turning point. You got mentors, you got teachers, but probably there's some people who don't even know how they can start approaching people to be their mentors. So how would you guide them to go about getting mentors for themselves, and how to choose the right mentors?
Another great question. The big issue there is, how do you transact with the world? Are you about the give or the get? It's a very dumb idea, for example, to be given a role, to find yourself. Look, I always took jobs with the right people, even if it wasn't quite the right job or the right salary, because the money chases that. Yeah. And I remember distinctly having taken jobs and thought, this is not really the job I completely want to do, but wow, these are the guys I want to get around. And in a year later, I'm a marketing director of an international company, simply because I took that decision. I think that we young Kenyans are way too obsessed with money, and I think there's a lot of family pressure that we surrender ourselves to, as if we owe our parents money. Let's be blunt. Yes. There's this pressure. I've done this for you. I've done that for you. You've got a university degree. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a parent's responsibility to feed children and to educate them. And that's not something. So there's a lot of pressure on young kids. Money, 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 money. That's a very bad idea. What you need to be focused on is, in your 20s, you need to be focused on learning. Where's the growth? Who can I get around that I can suck up massive amounts of information, massive amounts of learning, which are going to set me up for life. And then you can go big, because you've got the tools to do it. Yeah. And yes, my NGO Little Sports has at times had 240 people working in it. Kenyans are fabulous people to work with. Don't expect too much too quick as a young Kenyan. And yeah, I came from relative poverty, and I did not get well paid when I started, but I sure made money pretty quick, because I was so incredibly obsessive and dedicated to getting ahead. Yeah. And here's a little tip. If you're bigger than your job, trust me, your workmates can see it, your customers can see it, and even your boss can see it. And sooner or later, if you work to your capacity, you can take it to the bank that an opportunity will come along that rewards you. You make your own opportunities. If you're bigger than your job,
everyone sees it.
Everyone sees it, and sooner or later, opportunity comes knocking. And when your preparedness meets opportunity, and one of the biggest mistakes that young people make is, oh, when I get a good salary, I'll really put 100% in. Whoa, that's a recipe for disaster. Oh, when I get a good job, that's when I'll really try hard. And that's around the wrong way. You've got to give your absolute best right now. Remember, you don't really work for anybody. It's your life. It's your life, not the other guys.
Yeah.
You might be working for somebody now, but if you've got a big dream and you're 100% switched on, never, ever, ever miss an opportunity to be around a mentor. Someone who you can learn and grasp things from, who will build you, who will lend you a book, who will lend you some tapes, who will shortcut your passage. That's what you need to be focused on.
That is really inspiring and really true and real.
It sure is.
Yeah, and I can see we're running out of time. We have 2
are.
minutes.
That
Yes.
That went really quick.
Yeah, it was really fast.
Yeah.
And really interesting and amazing. So as we wind up, what is the piece of advice that you would really love to leave with the young people concerning life or concerning whatever thing that they like to pursue?
Expose yourself to massive amounts of learning and information. Do what you love what you do. Find the thing that gets you up early and keeps you up late. And if you don't know what it is, like Obama didn't know what it was when he went to Washington, he's admitted he had no idea what he was doing. Take internships, take attachments, do various things, and stop listening to negative people tell you that you should do a job that they think you should do when it's not in your heart. If you're not an accountant, don't do accountancy. If you're a designer, be a designer. Get around people who can help you. Get around mentors. Don't worry about the money. Get around the people who can teach you stuff. The money will chase you. The money will chase you. Don't worry about it. Learn. Suck it up. Really talk.
Wow, thank you very much, Michael.
Pleasure to
It
be
was a
with you.
pleasure having you. It is always good having you and working with you. Just an incredible man who gives a lot.
Thank you.
And
That's really cool.
Yeah, really. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. It was a wonderful time. And I hope you learned a lot. And remember, do the work. Knowledge is not enough. You have to do the work. Have a wonderful time. Bye. Good night.